Well, a very good morning. It is the Daybreaker on Record TV, and thank you so much for tuning in this morning. My name is Nora Osende. Today, every Friday, as you know, we have the Pan African movement, and we get to discuss or debate about the different issues affecting not only Africa, not only Uganda, but how it affects the world at large. Now, on this day, we are going to discuss about Africa being the food basket. Does Africa have the potential to be the global food basket of the world? As you know, Africa has been talked about in so many occasions as the bread basket of the world. Africa is well poised to emerge as the future basket of this very world. And we are going to look into that. What are the challenges that come with it? What are the potentials? What are the advantages that Africa has? And today I have none other than Daniel Rugarama from the Pan African movement, as usual, who is here every Friday. A very warm welcome and good morning.
Thank you so much, dear Sister Nora, and good morning to all of you viewers, and thank you for tuning in.
Yes, but not only do we have Daniel, we also have Katie Awadi, who is actually based in the USA, and we are going to be joined by a new guest who is Hakuk, also from the US there. But still, before we start, with the rising world population and the imminent danger of world shortages, food shortages in the future, Africa is well poised to become the global food basket and emerging a major supplier of food. Well, Africa undoubtedly holds a large chunk of open land that is being seen as a source of future food supply for the rising population of the world. Over the few years, the private investors and foreign governments have acquired thousands of acres of farmland in Africa that's in a bid to protect their countries against future food shortages. Investors from Saudi Arabia and investors from around the world like China have leased up large tracts of land close to about 8,000 million of production of rice in countries like Zimbabwe. Even the Jordans have leased so many hectares of land that's in Sudan and rearing livestock and growing of crops. South Korea plans to develop about 100,000 hectares of farmland in Tanzania, at least raising a lot of food production in these areas. So today we are actually talking about Africa being the food basket of not just the world, not just Africa, but also the world. And Daniel, I'm so glad that you are here in studio with me this morning. We shall be connecting with KD and Awuk later on as we progress into the discussion. What is your impression about this statement when they talk about Africa could potentially be a food basket or bread basket for the world?
Once again, thank you so much, Nora, and good morning to our viewers. Africa's potential in agriculture is overwhelming, and without doubt, Africa should be the food basket, not just for Africa, but the world. It is unfortunate that we have not had the ability, scientific and otherwise, to realize our potential in that agriculture. It is also true that our efforts, unfortunately, have been stifled by the conceptual hegemonic West, which, for obvious reasons, would not love to see Africa develop fully her competitive advantage, which is in agriculture. It is absurd that ourselves, even amidst all these challenges, Africa, through its structures, be it at African Union and other regional bodies has also not come up aggressively to challenge the equally aggressive foreign forces that are geared towards curtailing the agricultural potential of Africa. For instance, there is a very aggressive, unfortunate policy framework to do with genetically modified foods. Mm-hmm. Now, genetically modified foods certainly will also affect the seeds. Our indigenous seeds are in trouble. And if you want to know how dangerous that can be, you must realize that time will reach when we cannot plant, harvest, and reserve our seeds for the next planting, that you must address your concerns to the Monsantos of this world for you to gain seeds to plant. The aggressive scenes that we see in the Ethiopia of hungry, dying children and mothers are going to be an everyday occurrence, and this time at a larger scale. Africa, with the fresh waters, fertile soils, not affected by climate, should have no reason at all not to be, first of all, address the food concerns of her own citizens. Later on, export the same food. Fortunately, we have got colleagues, and Kaid will be coming through here. Yeah. The kind of food which our brothers out there eat. I have been fortunate to visit a large part of this globe, and I'm not impressed by the kind of food they eat. Here we have got organic, we have got real food. If you eat a banana, ripe banana, and you get that taste, the feel, mm-hmm. you will know that Africa is blessed. Now, Africa may not necessarily be the entire continent under the tropics, that we have got soils which Uganda may be different, say for instance from Morocco, from Libya. But we are aware of what a man like the late Colonel Muammar Gaddafi did, the Green Revolution, that the once desert Libya was turned into a green belt. Nothing could fail to grow there. Therefore, the potential of Africa in as far as being the food basket, first of all, of her own citizens, and later on feeding the entire world, has unfortunately not been harnessed. We are aware of the aggressive, unfortunate schemes from the rest of the world, but it is within our power, because there is no any person, there is no any other force that is going to help us achieve this potential apart from ourselves.
So, Daniel, let me just go back to, I just want to hear the input of our brother KD, who is in the US right now. Your submission has a lot to do with the Western powers having an influence on the production of food, and how Africa has not exactly harnessed all the potential that it has when it comes to agriculture. And I need to understand from KD what his impression of this is all about. KD, can you hear me?
Be here with the Pan African movement.
So,
and I salute
Yes, so I just need to understand if all of this Africa not having harnessed its potential in agriculture been due to the Western powers, be it to other influences other than we who are at home in Africa. I think I'll just have a walk then. If Katie is not coming through, I'll just have a walk. Who is actually also based in the USA? You can just give us your submission in that regard.
Yes. Good morning to you all. There in Uganda, it's midnight where I am, so it may look a little dark in the room. I want to again, like Kitty, say thank you for the opportunity to be here and to be a part of the discussion that you're having today. That is, very, very, very critical discussion for Africa. I think that agriculture is really Africa's future, and Africa has really supplied the world's past. The great empires are born out of Africa, on the back of Africa, and we can show that. So what I want to submit, I don't know if you can see this very clearly, but this is a book by our brother Kidi Owadu, who's actually on the other side there. This is called The Blackest Soil, Africa Can Feed the World. And in it, he lays out, just a comprehensive blueprint on how Africa can restore its rightful place agriculturally in terms of, becoming preeminent in the world of agriculture. Like our brother Daniel said, that the amount of access of ground or land arable land that is in Africa is about 50% of the world's land that is available is in Africa and can be developed with the right resources and with the right mindset. People like Kidi and I represent parts of the diaspora that are very keen as we observe other nations coming in. We want to be clear that Africans take the most important role in securing their land for their future. And if they, at that point, what the surplus can be used for supplying the world. And Kidi has made several predictions about what is possible for Africa to produce. And I don't know if he'll be able to come on, but the main thing he said is that Africa can feed about 12 billion people, right? A complete diet of 2,000 calories a day. And that is amazing because we're not yet at 12 billion people on the planet. So that is how potent the potential of Africa is. And I think that's a good place for us to start the conversation and to begin to envision what Africa can be if we really tapped into this potential that we have lying right beneath our feet in terms of the soil.
Well, that's really amazing. 12 billion people, that's quite a number that Africa can actually feed there. I really want to hear this from our brother Katie on the other side, since he authored that book, and I just need to get his insight on this in regards to what exactly. Katie, you're so welcome on the show. I can't wait to talk to you about this. It's quite very interesting. There are 12 billion African feed, actually. And what bubbles me is that what is stopping Africa from harnessing this great potential that it has in agriculture?
Greetings. I hope I can be heard. I hope I sound good this morning.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes, you do.
All right. Greetings to you, my comrade, Rukarama, and to my beloved sister. It's wonderful to have you hosting the program today, Nora Osende. It's just absolutely a joy watching the brilliance of your journalism. Yes, I am the author of a number of books. I've also been a long-time organic gardener, farmer. I have an organic production laboratory that I use in my own backyard, testing out a myriad of different techniques. And I'm just having the most wonderful time. This subject of Pan-African economic development gets me extremely excited. So bear with me if I talk a bit fast. You asked the question, what is it that is holding us back from achieving this potential, which has been acknowledged by so many people? I mean, when we talk about the sheer size of Africa, Africa has such size as a continent that you literally could fit the United States, China, Canada, and Argentina inside of the map of Africa, and those are all major agricultural production nations, and still have room to squeeze in Croatia on this side. Africa has a land mass that's just absolutely magnificent. And when we talk about the totality of arable lands capable of producing food without any extreme measures to bring that land into production, Africa has 2,160,000,000 acres of land. It's 874 million hectares of land, of which, though, Africa is only using about 40% of that arable land. And so therefore, once we understand the potential, Africa has 60% of the world's unused arable land, which is why we see so many foreign companies and government agencies and NGOs all rushing to Africa to see if they can capture a portion of this future agricultural potential. So I'm very excited about it. I am absolutely convinced that of all of the nations on the African continent, Uganda has as great a potential as any other nation to become a major source of high value sustenance agriculture to feed every Ugandan, and every African must be fed. But then this surplus that we can produce literally can make Africa the breadbasket to the world. And in the book, I made the calculations using state-of-the-art organic farming techniques. 1 acre of land can feed as many as 12 people, depends on the techniques you use. The techniques that I have developed are very high-intensity techniques. Just using a standard of feeding 6 people per acre, which is twice that of Western-style agriculture. Africa, with its 2.160 billion acres of land, literally has the potential to feed 12.9 billion people. A daily diet of 2,000 calories, as Anka said, of mostly organic food, and that further, that Africa can develop a food export economy beyond its own needs that I predict will reach sometime between the year 2035 and 2050 of $4.3 trillion export economy in agricultural products per year, which would undeniably make Africa the breadbasket of the world. As you can tell, I'm quite excited about bringing this into place. The main 2 things Africa needs that's holding us back, we just need the right type of strategic plans, and that's what the book, The Blackest Soil, was intended to bring, as well as a spectrum of inputs, from seed inputs to technology inputs, including, of course, the basics of farm production equipment, as well as high technology farming. We can bring that to Africa with GPS mapping of our farming practices, as well as using drone technologies and other emerging technologies to bring to bear. Africa can leapfrog over a century of slower agricultural development in other parts of the world. There's a great potential ahead.
Well, very interesting, very passionate there. I can just see the passion in your voice when you talk about agriculture in Africa. And you mentioned Uganda actually being one of the main points in Africa that could actually be the food basket, not just of Uganda, but also in the world. You know, it has been very interesting hearing your views on that. And what I get is that there are some hindrances that have actually made us not to get to that point yet. And you've mentioned technology as being one of those. And I'm also thinking about the genetically modified kind of foods that Daniel had talked about. What is your perspective on that in regards to Africa being the food basket and everything that is being replaced now from the original kind of food that was grown to now everything being kind of, you know, mixed up in there genetically?
We are at a race against time. Mm-hmm. If we do not act with all of our capacity, then a number of potentialities could occur which would be dangerous and perilous to the future, the outcome that we would seek. For one, we do see a competition for the organic food production techniques You know, Uganda has the second largest number of registered organic farmers of any nation on earth after India. Tanzania follows very closely. But we see an effort by Bayer Monsanto. The Monsanto Corporation has merged with the German company Bayer, and they have a long historical record of which we are very, very suspicious. We do not necessarily want to introduce these technologies to Africa. I do a lot of research in natural organic techniques, and I am absolutely convinced that it is the soil content, the microbes that naturally grow in the soil, that really is the magic to producing high quality, non-chemicalized farming, organic farming. And that's really what the theme of the Blackest Soil introduces. I don't think anyone else in the world has written on the prospect of developing Africa's complex microbiome, which is what we call these naturally occurring soil bacteria, to its fullest potential. You can tell when the soil is rich like this because the soil is literally black. I've never been to Uganda, but I have heard from sources, and I believe it to be true, that Uganda has maybe some of the blackest soil on the planet, hence some of the most fertile soil on the planet.
Very
and
true.
I will go further. Comrade Rugarama, you were saying?
Very true, very true. Blackest
So the
soil.
blackest soil.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they always say about the beauty of African women, the blacker the berry, the sweeter the juice. Well, I say the same is true for African soil. The blacker the soil, the sweeter the berry, the sweeter the juice, the more beautiful the African woman.
Interesting, Katie. I just want to hear Awuk. I hope I'm pronouncing your name well. I just want to hear Awuk's perspective of that. Africa being the potential food basket of the world. What are some of the things that Africans can actually do to make that happen?
So, yes, and the name is pronounced Ankh.
Ankh.
So it's pronounced Ankh, yeah?
All right,
So,
Ankh, sorry.
Ankh. No problem. I'm just really enjoying it, enjoying the moment and the opportunity to be, talking in Uganda. Of course, I was there just up until March of this year. And then I came just before the COVID situation back to the United States. To answer your question, right? I actually am right now representing part, along with Brother Kidi, an interest group in the diaspora who is looking at and talking about how we can strategically bring the resources that we have from our side of the world into Africa to partner with Africans on the ground to actually begin to work on some of these things. So we're currently working on a project and a series of projects that will actually execute exactly what we're talking about in real time. So we hope to be, making an exploratory trip sometime at the beginning of 2021. And we hope that this, leads to more of these types of relationships where though, obviously the land is in Africa and it just needs a certain amount of resources and all that. We just need to create those strategic partnerships that are working in the best interest of Africa. And if we can create those types of opportunities, I think that we are well on our way to achieving our objectives.
Well, thank you so much. We are discussing the potential of Africa being the world food basket. And I'm with the Pan African movement. I'm with Olk and I'm with KD in the US. Danielle is right here with me in studio. It's so good to have you here. Well, we are still going to dig more into that right after the break. A very good morning. Thank you so much for tuning in to Record TV this morning. We'll be right back.
Hello everyone, greetings from Simba Automotives Limited. I am Repeal Jim, the corporate manager. I'm here to talk about our UG Boss motorcycles. We have a UG Boss off-road motorcycle called UG Boss Pro. It's a 125cc off-road motorcycle, 5 gears, both kick and self.
I would like to talk about the scooter. The scooter is a very, very good town service bike. It's very good for ladies and also gentlemen who want to move around town easily. It consumes very little and the spare parts are readily available.
We also have business motorcycles. We have the UG Boss 100cc. Boda boda. Nungi nnyo mu kola sente mu business ya boda boda. Pichipichi enywa kitono, pichipichi etambula distance nene. Tulina pichipichi gye tuyita Sumo 200 tricycle oba tukutuku. Eno pichipichi ya migugu nungi nnyo mu kola sente abatambuza ebyamaguzi. Pichipichi eno mwali badde mugyeyunira. Ku ebyo byonna kambagalize amazaalibwa amalungi n'omwaka omujja ogw'emirembe.
Hello, how are you? Tell me, how do you do?
We're here to show some appreciation for the things you do.
Sent you for today, and we sent you for tomorrow. Sent you for every time and everywhere you go. We love you so, and we enjoy life with you. We are happy, happy, happy to know that we will go with you. That's why we say, thank you, thank you, thank you, yeah. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you for choosing MTN. Use MTN Mobile Money, bundles or other services to get Thank You points. The more you use, the more Thank You points you get. We look forward to many more years together. Thank you.
Our security systems, we ensure that your security is guaranteed. Bank on us to protect and secure your interests. We offer services like K9, VIP protection, guard services, electronic services, surveillance, and so much more. Contact us on 0392 178100 or 0707 531000. When you need security, you can rely on us.
Welcome back from that break. It is the Daybreaker. My name is Nora Sende. Thank you so much for staying with us this morning as we're discussing the issues to do with agriculture, Africa having the potential to be the world food basket. It is, but what is exactly stopping Africa from harnessing the potential that it has? With all the beautiful rivers, the darkest soils, specifically Uganda having one of the richest soils. I have a very good discussants with me. Katie, I have Og, and I have Daniel here, and we're just chewing and breaking it down. I just want to come back to the studio with Daniel. It is very paradoxical how Africa has so much richness and so much potential, so much greatness, but it's at the same time very sad to know that one of the world's most malnourished come from this place of the world, children starve, and we just can't put a finger to it. What is your say on this?
Maybe we, and by we I mean Africa, may not necessarily be the most starved continent.
Mm-hmm.
But you see, it is very unfortunate, and that informs what we have got to do going forward. It is unfortunate in the sense that we are not telling our story. So if the story of the starving children, the dying mothers in Ethiopia is the one that is doing the rounds, then you will not get the story of the starving children and dying mothers in India, in Indonesia. However, let me not justify, let me not look as if I'm saying because they are dying children out of anger in India, then it makes our situation any better. No. The point I'm making is that whatever the unfortunate circumstances we may be experiencing in having our population dying out of anger amidst plenty, but we are also not telling our own story, because there are so many other success stories on the African continent, even in the field of agriculture, that is not being portrayed. I want to tell the viewers that, for instance, the Netherlands has been, in conjunction with our brother here, Robert Kapsheng of the New Vision, you know this, is it Harvest Money?
Yes.
Something like the Expo. They have been organizing this competition, the best farmers on the Ugandan scene. But you see, you've not taken trouble, and I believe so many of us have not taken trouble to look at exactly what is that the Netherlands, because afterwards the winners, about I think 6 groups, they are taken to Netherlands to learn what kind of what farming is all about. But I can pose the following questions. Are those farmers, for instance, that are selected as the best farmers from the Ugandan market, from the Ugandan scene, the question would be, what is their harvesting techniques? Because we have got a problem right at the point of planting up to when we do the export, or at the point of consumption, whether we are consuming locally or we are exporting to other different countries. The post-harvest losses are too much. The harvesting methods are also in a very serious doubt. The planting itself is problematic. The kind of chemicals we use to maintain the crop is also problematic, because you will find that I'm even not sure what is going to happen to our soils if we maintain the kind of chemicals we use for spraying. Are you aware that we are no longer, for instance, getting into planting minus spraying? Our population, local population, is no longer interested in tilling the land, making sure that that grass, for instance, the overgrown grass, is buried underneath. They spray the grass to die, and then they plant. There are even chemicals now that separate. They are very selective, that you can have wheat in, say, maize, and both of them are growing, but you have a spray, chemical spray, that will kill the weed and leave the... Now, I don't know if that is the technology that we are talking about and where we are headed. But going forward, I see a problem whereby we do not own this technology. I would have no problem for technology if we were owning it. But we don't own this technology. Somebody is bringing it to us. We are embracing it. But time is going to reach. And this is I think the idea that the likes of the Monsantos have. Time is going to reach when we do not own anything of our own. We do not own the technology. We do not own the seeds. We do not own, we can't even predict what is going to grow on these fertile soils of ours. That's why we need the ants, the caddies of this world to step down from their comfort zone there. Let them come down here. Actually, they are even not experiencing any comfort zone because these guys are writing everything. And I think the efforts they have made so far indicate that they really want to come down here and help the situation, practically speaking. Now, I want to conclude with this. That a class, some psychologists told me, that you see, when you do not tell your own story. If you ever came to a class and you said, streams, we have streams. Say this stream, yes, I have been informed that you are the worst performing stream. And accept your situation, we shall move like that until perhaps God comes back. That particular stream, even if it was the best performing, because you have given them that impression, you have created it in their mind, then they have believed it. That is how they are going to be. You would have killed their determination and their morale. What am I saying? That Africa, we've been made to believe that nothing of our own can be good. That if somebody brings CNN, BBC, they usually do these documentaries. I have been seeing the ugly situations of starving children being done by BBC in Ethiopia. And actually at one time, even in Southern Sudan, I think there was the award-winning journalist who filmed a child. That one can be forgiven because there was a civil war. But I'm not sure even that the situation has improved anyway. We keep fighting. And that is also not our own, but we have to be very careful. Who fuels these fights? But the situation I'm talking about, for instance, in Ethiopia and rest of some parts of Africa, is whereby somebody we consider superior has told us that you cannot produce your own food. World Food Organization must come to your assistance. And the situation is so bad. The children are extremely malnourished. The women are incapable of tilling their own land because Ethiopia, even with a population of 100 plus citizens, has got extremely big chunk of land that even if you brought 300 people more into Ethiopia, they should not be starving. So, by way of concluding on this, it is very disturbing, it is perturbing that the Africa, rich with fertile soils, rich, blessed with a fantastic climate, not affected by these seasons, winters, what, can be facing a situation, even if, by the way, the starving population in Africa is about 20%, that is bad enough. We should be food sufficient with ability to export because that is where our comparative advantage is.
Well, Daniel has given us a lot of insight in regards to creation, the perception that is actually created by other foreign factors there about Africa and how Africa should be able to tell their own story, a perspective that has not actually been really brought out there in regards to Africans actually telling their own story. Yeah, you also talked about the use of technology in technology and other different techniques in agriculture, especially in Africa. In Uganda here we have awarding some of the best agriculturalists, but the technology that is actually being taught to these people is actually foreign technology. I think it's from Dutch or somewhere. Katie had actually mentioned something to do with technology in that regard. I'm just trying to understand how do we strike a balance between not losing ourselves in a whole different system, trying to maintain the African culture, the African way of doing our things, while harnessing the great potential that lies within Africa. Katie.
Nora, I do believe that is one of the most critical questions of our generation. Is how do we as Africans develop our own sovereign development while maintaining the cultural, historical, and let's say biological integrity of our people. There are numerous problems to overcome, and my comrade Rukarama pointed out some very important points. I'm always appreciative listening to him. Some of these problems that we will overcome, the low crop yield of subsistence farming has been problematic over the centuries, and it will be solved in, I believe, within the next 35 years across the African continent. Uganda, I just was compiling these figures for a report I'm writing called Growing Uganda 2021 to 2025. And in putting these figures together, I understand is somewhere between 70 and 82% of Ugandans are employed in agriculture. But most of that is subsistence farming, low yield growth, mainly for consumption and for subsistence, while Uganda's agricultural contribution to the nation's gross domestic product remains only 36%. So over 70% of the population is employed in producing only 36% of GDP. So that's problematic. Accessible transportation is still problematic. Roads and infrastructure are being developed. Standard gauge railroads, along with tarmac or asphalt highways, are being constructed. And that's going to go a long way towards solving the problem of moving crops from production to the marketing sources. At current, or last time I checked, and I believe this is still rather current, 30% of African agricultural products spoil before getting to market. If we could just come up with a scheme, with a plan to cut food spoilage by 50%, that would save the African continent on a yearly basis over $50 billion. And that's a very important sum. This requires the purchase and the widespread uses of refrigerated trucks, light industrial food processing equipment, as well as we can develop a whole spectrum of high yield policies that will ultimately begin to free this agricultural subsistence labor and allow that labor to be able to work in other aspects of light and medium size and even heavy industry that will be developed across the continent. And this will also significantly increase per capita income, and it will slow the pace of urbanization where young people are leaving the rural areas and moving into the city because they at present don't see the hope of developing any type of robust career while still working in the rural areas. Well, China was able to reverse this and create high industrial production in their rural areas, and that put a check on Chinese urbanization. So a couple of very important points I want to make, and I'll make these very brief. One, we must be, as Brother Daniel has said, we must be owners of the entire food value chain. There are some 10 inputs in modern day food value chains, from the farming inputs such as seeds and equipment and loans to the farmers to be able to get their crops in the ground, to the harvesting, the labor for all of the production areas, to the various inputs used to control weeds and other pest controls, etc., all the way through to marketing on the local, international, and transnational basis, or around a global marketing. We must avoid the mistakes of the 20th century green revolution. About 100 years ago, they had what was called a green revolution, which introduced technologies into farming that ultimately produced unintended consequences, such as the introduction of organophosphate chemicals has raised the rates of cancer in the Western countries and other places where they're used to an extremely high rate. And Africa does not want to follow that pathway. So we also are very cautious about mimicking Western use of what are called NPK fertilizers. These are essentially chemical fertilizers, which work really, really well for 1 or 2 or 3 years, maybe 10 years, and then they deplete the soil and they disrupt the natural soil bacteria complex that's necessary to have the healthiest food and the healthiest soil. And so the last point I will make is a significant collaboration from across the African global diaspora is the spark that will ignite the fire that will be Africa's true agricultural output. Africa can feed the world, and we have a scientific roadmap for agricultural preeminence for the 21st century.
Great.
Well, thank you so much, Katie. Well said, indeed. Among points you mentioned, so much to do with how we need to own our food value chain. I think that is so significant. If we own it up, we take it up and we make our own decisions, we know what's best for us. I think that is incredible. And then you talked about also avoiding the NPK, the fertilizers, plus also the mistakes of the Green Revolution. But there's something very significant that you mentioned there, the collaboration that is needed between Africa and the diaspora. We really do need that. And I just want Op to just give us a little insight on this. How can this actually bring us forward when it comes to agriculture, this collaboration?
So one of the, yes, thank you once again, Nora. One of the beautiful things that is happening, really, as you know, with what is happening in America around certain issues, whether it's racial intolerance, police brutality, etc. That those are negative things, but the positive side of those things is it creates a kind of a quest for many people in the diaspora for a higher sense of identifying who they are in the world, and that ultimately leads to the connection to our homeland, our ancestral homeland, Africa. And part of what happens in America very often is that there are those of us who are here who are highly skilled. Often we're not, given the level of opportunity to match the skills and all that. And so for those people, that Africa becomes, the next frontier to express its natural, potency. And agriculture is what we're looking at right now as that opportunity. And so with the diaspora now becoming more interested in Africa, by the day, this is happening. So over in Ghana, you guys would be aware last year they had the year of return that was a fabulous success in Ghana, where many of the African Americans, if you will, and Africans in the diaspora returned to those areas in the West. And I think the Nile Valley Corridor in particular, and Uganda in general, and Uganda in particular, also has very special interests for the diasporan community. And, I've been to Uganda several times. I'm married to a Ugandan, so I'm Ugandan by marriage in that sense. And I can tell you that the interest that I get, even in, moving around, there's a high level of interest now in Africa, and people wanting to invest in Africa, people wanting to look at Africa as a potential home, and people who want to share their knowledge, their skill set, their resources, and these access to technologies and access to markets. This is what this dynamic relationship can produce and can bring forth for Africa. So yes, we are in the diaspora side of it very, 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 very much tuned in to what's happening now on the continent, and very interested in making sure that we're playing a significant role in its ongoing development and its march towards sovereignty and self-sustainability.
So much. Oh, and it's so nice to know that you are a Ugandan in-law there. Mko. In Uganda, anyone who is married to Uganda, that makes you an in-law in Uganda, which is quite very interesting to know that.
You're giving Kedi the second
one. Yes.
Well, we are still discussing, but we are almost winding up this very interesting topic. Very insightful. And Daniel, before we get off, because we only have about a few minutes to go, I just need you to give me your last remarks. We didn't expound so much on how the foreign countries have so much stake on what African countries take out there in terms of expectation, the standards. If we're going to be the food basket of the world, and then the standards are actually determined by other countries, it kind of affects everything that is being done agriculturally, doesn't it?
I can tell you without any fear of contradiction that the battle we have entered as far as agriculture is concerned is not a mean battle.
Yeah.
It's a war, actually, with a series of battles in it. And like the conceptual West has determined several things, including the standard of beauty, that a woman to be beautiful, you must be these inches tall, you must be this slender, and our ladies no longer eat these days because they want to look beautiful. And the beauty, to them, the standard is provided by the Miss Universe. All of that is just, of course, to make you, the African man, the African woman, look not up to the standards, the so-called international standards. In the same way, granted that there is where we are not getting it right, but I can assure you that in a majority of the cases in agriculture, you cannot take away our quality. Our quality is original. All we need to do is to do a bit of polishing up. And I think this is what Comrade Ank and Comrade Kedi were talking about. We need to improve a few things here and there. But we are not going to get it easy. I am here to announce to our viewers that going forward, this war is not a walk in the leisure park. No. This is a very serious war because what is happening is that the synthetic foods, when we come out to put a competition, penetrate the markets, and this is where I'm going to find a problem, unless, of course, I'm reassured. Because is the American, for instance, economy ready to accept our agricultural produce? That we are, because we can produce and feed. You see, when you going by the projections that, for instance, Comrade Kedi made, 12 point something billion people, Africa having the ability to feed them. Africa itself is less than 2 billion people. You see? China itself is less than 3 billion people. India. Now, America is, are they even 500, I forget the population, but Ken will remind me and Ank. But you see, that therefore, we have got double the ability to feed the entire globe. Double the ability to do that. Now, so what will happen to the American food itself? They are going to put stringent conditionalities. Not that these are conditionalities really that would best fit into the matrix. The truth of the matter would be that we can unreasonably limit the entry of the food supplies into our economy for obvious reasons. Because we are talking, you see, the day Africa realizes that agriculture is not merely to produce food for consumption, the day we realize that we are talking about agriculture from the business point of view is when we are going to get it right. We are talking about business. Like we can talk about mining, we are talking about manufacturing. Agriculture is business. In the same way, therefore, I envision a situation whereby Africa, if we do not wake up on the right side and realize that we must do the food value chain properly. Because you see, when we constantly administer techniques and chemicals that are deliberately supplied to us to affect the quality, because you've heard we are the second organic agriculture producing country in the entire world. But the rate at which we are administering these technologies, the rate at which we are killing weed in order to plant, instead of directly going into planting using our natural ways, the way we have done it. And even if we employed the technology should be to enhance our ability and accelerate the speed, not to do away with our cultural way of farming. We are going to reach a point whereby our soils are not responding to us. The quality that comes from the soil is also very harmful, not just to us, but it cannot be exported. The concept, therefore, of agriculture being looked at in the lenses of business will certainly be affected. We need, therefore, to do a very serious review of this whole thing called agriculture from the African perspective. If we must maintain, look at how it is grown, look at how it is marketed, look at how we can penetrate different markets, including the American market. I know it is, like I said, not a walk in the leisure park, but it can be achieved.
Thank you so much, Daniel. Actually, you have just nailed it, on the head, because you actually stress back owning the food value chain there and making agriculture Africanized. The technology should actually come to enhance what already Africa has and to just help not to do away with it in some instances, what we've been saying. I just want to have a closing remarks from Alk there, and then I'll head over to Katie. Alk, what is your say finally on agriculture being the food basket of Africa being the food basket of the world in relation to what we have just discussed conclusively?
What I would want my Ugandan family, brothers and sisters, to ponder as we discuss the importance of agriculture in Africa and in Uganda in particular, is that pay special note to the fact that the word culture is found in the word agriculture. It's built into the word, right? And we're talking about the preservation of our culture, the preservation of the ways of doing things. And I'm saying that agriculture is the roots of what we do, right? How we feed ourselves, how we choose, it determines how we choose to live and how we interact with each other and the world. This is the basis of human civilization. As we know, keep in mind that Africa, right, is the definition of what it means to be human, because the original human family came out of Africa and then traveled into all of the world. And so Africa has always been, in at least kind of a spiritual sense, the origin. And what we're talking about is a practical way of reconnecting with our, original practices and culture away from the machinations of those who work against our best interests, those who bring in these methodologies, these chemicals, these things that have a different agenda for Africa and its people. And we can clearly see the ramifications, why we are where we are when we talk about the starving people in Africa, etc. History is best able to reward our research, as Malcolm X, Omowale once said. And so we are aware that we didn't just happen to be that paradox of Africa being the wealthiest continent and yet having poor people, right? Because you cannot be wealthy and poor at the same time, technically speaking, or you shouldn't be. And if you are, then you should know that if you're standing under the richest soil on the planet Earth, and you are poor for any reason, then you should know something happened here. You're standing on a crime scene, right? And I think it was Damien Marley in his who said the whole world is a crime scene. It's one big crime scene. And so we have to keep that in mind. And I appreciate Comrade Daniel mentioning that this is a battle. This is more than a battle. This is a war. And so we have to keep all these things in mind as we progress forward. And the key to winning the war is our commitment to being true to ourselves, to who and what we are as African people. And in being true to that, what we unleash on the planet is our African genius once again, which was, like I say, the original creative spring of humanity, and it'll be the creative spring of humanity once again. All right, so thank you for the opportunity to be here with you and share a few ideas.
Well, thank you so much. That's really profound there. I just want to hear what Katie has to say before we can take off from the show. Katie?
Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for such a very important theme to the program. I stand on the shoulders of giants who came before me, one of whom has gone on recently to the realm of the ancestors, Dr. Calestis Juma, the Kenyan-born agronomist from Harvard University. He said that African agricultural productivity is low. If there's an investment, then African farmers are very capable of producing enough food, not only to feed themselves, but also for the export market. And of course, the brilliant president of the African Development Bank, Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, has said that the next generation of billionaires from Africa will be farmers. So let me just put those predictions into context. These are the numbers. Low cost, high value African labor built the agricultural wealth of the Western Hemisphere during the period of enslavement. From 2015 until 2030, it has been forecasted by many sources that Africa will experience an increase by the end of this period of $600 billion annual output above the 2015 level. So that translates to an additional 200 trillion Ugandan shillings available by 2030 in Pan-African agricultural output, to which I predict that Uganda deserves and can readily, easily earn between 4 to 6 trillion shillings of that new agricultural increased output. So therefore, we are looking very closely with our group, the African Future, at Uganda, Ethiopia, Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi, South Sudan, the entirety of the East African community to be this foundation for this new rise. Africa can feed the world. The EAC shines brilliantly for the future and for the transformation of agriculture. Let us, in this circle, and others who would be convinced to be with us, let us be the agents of that change and that transformation. As I say in my book, The Blackest Soil, Africa can feed the world. I wake up every morning and I make that pledge. I want to feed the world. Thank you so much, Nora, for this conversation. And salutations to my comrades, Brother Ankh, and to Brother Rugarama. I am because we are.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Katie, there. We are discussing, or we've been discussing Africa agriculture and how Africa can be the food basket of the world. We talked about several things, but take home is staying true to who we are as Africans, owning the food value chain, and let us